Thanks, Deb.
Most of the time, we just forget. So it's just.
Howie.
How are you?
Good yourself.
Here.
Okay. Everybody ready? Everyone good? Good. I'd like to call this meeting of the Southbury Planning Commission to order, October 16th, 2024, room 2057 7 PM. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
April.
Ooh, April. I'm gonna get my head again. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Jumped ahead 6 months. All right. Seating of alternates, we'll see Alex. Everyone else is here, so we have a full team. Let's see, unfinished business, continuing site plan modifications, Citgo Gas Station 56, Main Street North, canopy signage discussion. Is the applicant here? Oh, yes. Main Street South. I'm having a tough day. I'll let Nancy read.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Coach Opela from Main Street Deli, Citgo Gas Station on Main Street. And we're here tonight to discuss a new imaging that Citgo brand is requiring us to put on the stations that they branded. And this has been required for years from them. It's part of the branding image across the country. And we are the few, probably the last ones that we're not doing that yet. And then based on towns, regulations, or wherever the stations are, like we are here in town. And last few years, they've been pushing that to finish the whole branding on wherever they supply the gas. So we have choices even to keep the brand or go with a different branding, which requirements basically these days are the same. So if you go to Shell, they'll have the same requirements, or Mobil or whatever. We haven't gone that far with them because we said we're gonna do this step, see how it goes with the town, then we'll make decisions. And they require, so for this imaging, they require so the canopy have their logo on, then the imaging, which you guys probably have copies of that. There's no changes to be made on size or anything. It's just from blank white to red and white they have. And then with the name of the Citgo brand and eyebrow lighting on one side, or that can be done on one side or two sides, or whatever the town can allow us.
Anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Just one comment. There, you know there's no outside storage?
I'm sorry?
Part of your approval is no outside storage,
Storage for what?
anything. Yeah. I know
We
there's
have
stuff out there now.
firewood up front.
I know.
We have to take it out?
Well, there's no outside storage, yeah. Once it starts,
We can
Well,
take it out. It's
everyone-
not been a problem so far, so I didn't have any complaint directly, so I didn't know. I'm sorry.
but the other stations do comply, so it's part of our regulation, whether we like it or not.
No, I never had a complaint from the town. Nobody told me that.
I told you,
There's- no.
okay.
I
Okay,
mean,
Yeah.
Shell has the upfront, Mobil has it on exit.
sometimes, yeah, the enforcement is a little bit,
No, I understand that, but I thought it was something that, I mean, that's not a problem.
just so you're aware.
I wasn't aware. Well, we can do that. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
So the main application is more for the signage on the canopy?
Yes.
and the
Yeah.
sign.
Canopy.
Yeah.
That's it.
The Trimark logo, the going from a white facade on the sides to a now gray and white, or gray and red
Red.
design.
Yeah,
All of the Sicko signage and Trimark would be internally illuminated, and then the eyebrow lighting.
yes.
And then the eyebrow lighting, based on Cocho's representation, can either be on one side of the facade or
the
all sides, just really depends on.
A lot of this application doesn't even meet the standard of illumination for the sign, and then we don't really have any other gas stations with anything on canopies at all throughout the town.
No, not looking at Main Street, Southford area, Main Street, none of the other gas stations had.
Totally against the POCD. I mean, we wouldn't even consider that.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's just unfortunately, a lot of the lighting doesn't comply. Cocho, would the,
Anybody have any comments on it too besides Jordan? In 1 second, anybody?
apologies, yeah.
There's no,
Go ahead, Jason.
just on its face, you're right, a lot of, there's some non-compliance throughout the proposal. And I understand Citgo's trying to make you do something, but, everyone else seems to be following the rules. We have to find a way to get COSO within the guidelines so he can still operate and run his business, but I think there's a number of problems here.
I think Jordan's just gonna outline it.
Yeah, more or less, Cocho, if it's a matter of working together to figure out what, if anything, Sitco's branding requirements could meet the Southbury regulations. Right now, a lot of what was being proposed with regard to the eyebrow lighting, with regard to the internally illuminated signage, and even the sign size, a lot of it falls out of the regulations. So
Okay.
even if the commission wanted to, the regulations for the town don't allow it. If you're being forced on Sitco's side of things to really follow suit and provide some type of branding, we could work together to see how and what branding could fit within Southbury's regulations. Unfortunately, the proposal as it stands right now doesn't comply with our regulations, so the commission would have a hard time moving this one forward.
So it's about the lighting, maybe, or just even the logo?
Well, we could talk about it
Because
in more detail.
If it's not lighting, probably we can work with the logo or imaging of that, not just
Sign
blank.
size, the lighting of the size, the lighting with the size, we has to meet within the town regulations.
Right off, yeah.
If you can get the Sitco people to say yes, they'll shrink the sign or do it of our
They,
regulation.
the size does not matter, it doesn't matter. The sign, they have different sizes for different canopies.
Are you familiar with our regulations? Did you look at them before you filled out the application or no?
No, I don't know, but I'm saying for the size, and if it's sizes,
Right.
let me say, more than required, they can shrink that, or,
So if we can get them within the size,
I was gonna say, just for practice, maybe Jordan and Kohu can sit down outside of the meeting, say, yes, this works,
Yeah.
this works if we shrink it to this,
Right,
this
that would-
works if we
that would
don't
help.
illuminate it.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe there's a path forward.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
eyebrow lighting, I know we can't do.
okay.
I know that
How about
unfortunately.
the, how about the logo?
yeah.
How about the logo, just the imaging, like red and whatever?
That would be up to you
design?
guys. Frankly, the imaging,
That's
it
up to the commission
it
on
would
that
be up
one.
to the commission.
So I can go to them and say, I cannot do the whole thing, but at least I can do imaging, so it's like red and gray or whatever they have, that design that you have on the.
Do we have pictures of that?
We do. Coach O, I personally would hold
Anyone see
off.
the pictures? Want to see them?
We've turned other people down though, so
I know.
how do we do that?
I would hold off on going back to Sitco and telling them that you could do anything until we've
No,
kinda-
no, no,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, I'm just, we discussed it to see,
Mhm.
Okay. Like everywhere else.
Yeah.
Pretty standard
Yeah.
in, in other towns. So far, we've
so
kept it.
Middlebury, for example, has the same thing.
Mhm.
It doesn't have with the lighting, but they have the logo on.
What do you guys think?
I think Key and Jordan should powwow and then
Yep.
represent.
I think that's the way
And
to.
even better if there is some sort of local representative to Sitco that can actually join in the conversation too.
I think that's fair.
That would
So
help.
that it's not this
Yeah,
back and forth.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah, I can bring them too, it's just.
And we could sit down together, Coach O, and go through everything, and that way you
Yeah.
and I can work together to get the best proposal
You
that
can
would
definitely
fit.
squeeze the size down the sign and
Yeah.
we'll get it in. Yeah.
Sure.
You may not get everything on the list, but we'll get close.
That's not, I'm not asking for.
Okay.
So that was they gave us in beginning, so that's what I'm starting with.
Okay.
If that's something else, we can discuss and whatever can be done. Will be better than it is now, I guess. It's just to give them the image. It looks better. It's nothing like we're gonna change drastically.
Coach O, do me a favor.
Yes.
Can you write down your phone number here? That way you and I can coordinate.
So basically what we'll do is we'll regroup
phone
and
number
put this
up
back
there,
on for next month to
'Cause this
to
is
get
your
it done for you.
application.
But in the interim, you make time to meet with Jordan to go over this, and it's sooner the better, right? So you can go back to Citgo, right, and get their go-ahead, and then when you come back to us that you know everything that you're gonna present to us, you know, will fall in perfectly, okay?
Perfect.
All right.
Motion to table to the next meeting.
I'll
for s-
second that.
For staff input and advice.
Any discussion? All in favor, table it?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Alrighty, we'll talk soon.
Right. Number 2, let's see, under new business, site plan modification. Site plan modification, Saki Asian Fusion Restaurant, 730 Main Street South, outdoor patio seating. Anybody answer that? No one here.
Robert doesn't appear to be here
Okay.
today.
Everybody saw the drawing of, right in front? It's a little scary, right, with the traffic right there?
Yeah, there's no
Only if you're out
proposed
there.
barrier.
If you're eating dinner there, all of a sudden the car's coming at you. So we have to, figure, does that make sense?
Safety is one of
Safety,
our
yeah.
priorities.
I think the issue is if you try to require bollards,
Right.
it would take up too much of the sidewalk area. But if you step the bollards out into the driveway, I don't know, we'd have to have someone else make a ruling as to whether that is gonna narrow the driveway too much, but it would seem like we should have something.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So the car just doesn't hop the curb.
That's what you guys required for Manami to facilitate their
We did that
outdoor
for Manami.
patio seating, so it would only be in kind that you guys would require the same thing here.
Right.
So essentially, if the site development isn't amenable to such a change, then
We'll have to deny the application.
that's
Yeah.
pretty much where it sits.
Didn't
Yeah.
you have a question?
Brian, you have a question on it?
That one, no.
Yeah, about the
You-
buffer? The plantings, the buffer?
No,
That
no.
was,
no.
okay.
Am I to assume that,
Approved isn't there.
based on our last discussion, concrete plantings would not suffice? Bollards would, or, not that it would work in this location, but ornamental boulders or
I
something
think the
along those
impact
lines?
wasn't strong enough. I think-
That's how we-
I think it was, yeah.
Yep,
They
that's what
actually
was-
do make bollards that have planters on top.
Yeah,
Okay, so we can make it pretty.
But I think the
if we need.
concrete planters would, the
The
car
concrete-
impact was not
but
strong
the
enough, if I
important thing
remember
is
right,
to
yeah.
make sure that you can get by.
Oh, of course.
There's not a lot of room on that sidewalk.
No,
If you're
I-
going on
that's
Saki,
what-
It's real
that-
tight right there, so it's not like,
So we have to know where the town property begins and ends too, or is it state property there?
No, it's all their property, it's just the drive for their property, so it has to meet standards for the drive. So they have certain widths that they have to maintain, and if these encroached on those would cause issue with those aspects.
okay. All right, I'll make a motion to deny it at the moment until we get further details on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to deny it at this
Are we
stage?
denying it, or are we just gonna?
Or do you want to
Table it?
table it
Table it
until,
until-
let's see where the discussion goes at the very
All right,
least.
all right, I'll change the motion, we'll table it till next month.
I'll second
Can I
that.
ask a procedural question?
Sure.
If it's denied, can they bring it back?
They'd have to
Reapply.
reapply and
That
pay
makes-
an additional fee, which is just,
Thank you.
Right, so
That's
let's
all
just-
I wanted to know was the,
Yeah, that's a good idea, not to have that, that's fine.
because in the event that we do talk to the owner of the plaza, I think it's a Bennett Sullivan Plaza, and they are amenable to those changes, and it works, we can conditionally
Sure.
approve it just based on those aspects, similar to Manami. However, we are under a certain small time crunch, but tabling it at this stage still
We'll be
gives us
okay?
some time to operate, and we're still fine under the time.
Okay. All right, I'll make the motion to table it till next month until we get further details of,
I'll
If-
second it.
all right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, table to next month, May meeting, was it May 15th, I think it is? I think so. 7 o'clock, room 205. All right. Under other business, continued lot line revision, 221 Old Field Road, Brindley Gamefield Golf Course.
Just an update. So Mr. Brindley and Charlie Spath are currently working together. Mr. Brindley had some adverse health effects that kind of delayed the process. So he's still working on his application narrative and approval from the health district. As soon as we have those, we've met all the requirements and you guys can vote on the decision. It'll just have to get tabled to the next month. There are no statutory timelines that we're up against with regard to the lot line revision. That's where that one sits.
Full table.
Another table.
Motion to table it or no?
Yes.
Oh,
Why
I
not?
didn't know that.
All right, I'll make a motion to table that to next month till we get further details.
Next month's getting busy.
Yeah.
Second.
It's 3 in a row. Things come in threes. Can we get a second?
I'll second
All right, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, table to next month's May meeting, 2024.
We have to vote to add.
Yes, I'll make a motion to add the next item on the list, 8-3A. It looks like zoning referral, PDD number 22, Southbury Storage, max lot coverage. Can we get a second on the motion to add it?
Second?
All in favor adding to the schedule?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it's added, so.
I have 4 plan drafts, if anyone would like to see them in
Anybody
person.
have it? Want to see it in,
Yeah, absolutely.
because we have it electronically, everyone saw it.
Didn't you have the questions? Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys want to go over there?
You, yeah, absolutely.
I should have just went like
Here you
that,
go.
we probably would have flown
Yeah.
nicely.
We missed the bench,
We missed what?
the bench.
Missed the bench? I will come right back to the bench.
What do you got? Yeah, same thing.
Good, how are you? Good to have you.
It's a tough day over there.
No, you're fine.
All right, Hugh Sullivan here for,
Yeah, Hugh Sullivan from Bennett Sullivan Associates, Pompark Office Park, Southbury. Before you this evening regarding the modification of detailed plans, PDD 22, Southbury Storage. I have a 3-page overview. I don't know if they have this.
We can pass that up.
Yep.
They've all received this as well.
Okay. Essentially, everything that's in red are the changes I'm asking for, or the owner's asking for. It's pretty straightforward and simple. If you were to look at the original general plans, there were 3 buildings which were known as C, D, and E that are between the existing building and the library. And as we went on with the construction of the foundation and the current building that's completed in the back, we noticed and felt that we couldn't maintain the 20% coverage, and we're requesting the modification, if we could go from, right now, they have 19.98 or 20%, and we'd like to raise that to 25% coverage. I did speak about at the zoning that I had no issues if the commissions wanted to go to 22.5. There's nothing sacred about that number. It just allows us to build what we originally thought we could do in general plans, in the detailed plans, and it's for garages. I can tell you, I mean, at the onset of this project, I had no idea how this was going to work, and I mean that wholeheartedly. Good luck getting the space.
okay?
This is something that I can sincerely say that members of our community can use. I think it's a great use. Also, on our proposal here tonight, before we were even thinking about this, one of the fire marshals, he came before us because he was doing his reviews, and he wanted to have an additional pull-up in front of the building. And we said, because he wanted to be able to pull in a fire truck. And I said, I had no problem with it, but would you accept us having some parking there? And he had no issue with that. So that's part of our overview tonight as well with your commission. This is a referral from the zoning commission. It's something that I hope you could support because we do feel it will be a very successful project. Okay.
Anybody have any questions for you?
What's the total elevation? Is it,
It's only one story. It's their single-story garages stacked side by side. And the way this is going to work is that if you look at the building the closest to the street, the ridge of the building will be the same height. And as the site slopes down, we'll get garages that have different and varying roof heights and garage doors for members of the community and their businesses to use them. There, again, per your commission, there is no outside storage, none. No, we respected that, that's not an issue. And if you were to look at the drawings, SP 100 that we submitted, you could see that the area that we had for, you remember conceptually as outdoor storage, really has become the detention area that was coordinated and required by the Wetlands Commission. And that's installed and it's working very well.
It's doing very well, yes.
Yep. If there are any questions, please let me know.
Anyone have anything for Hugh?
setback correct?
Setback works? Yep.
Yep.
20 feet?
For the PDD, correct.
Yep. Oh, this one's been 20. Yeah. What does everybody think? I think it's pretty straightforward.
Additional lighting?
No, not everything that was approved is all we need. I mean, it's pretty simple. And it's all in compliance.
So the only thing you're changing is what?
That we're,
From the
the
original plan.
coverage. We initially came out in general plans and asked for maximum building coverage of 20% of the site.
Yes.
We'd like to go up to 22.5 or 25, whatever you agree for us to do, we'll abide by. Because there were some concerns, a general question about the 25 from a member of zoning, and I understood it. They said if you were at 22.5, then really you couldn't do any more, and I agreed. So whatever's appropriate for your board, as well as the zoning commission, we can abide by.
So
What was the cause? What caused you to change from what it was to what?
The manufacturer of the building in the back, we had no idea how they were going to manufacture the building. And once they developed their scheme and came through, we didn't anticipate the building on the,
Everything forward?
it's in back. We didn't want to come closer to the street because we have tree buffering we still have to do in the front of the property, as well as the town wants to do streetscape out front.
Okay.
Okay.
So zoning pretty much said 22.5 is good with them.
Well, they entertained it, and, he was going to guide us on it with you this evening.
So is 25 out of the question?
So based on the conversation we had with zoning, the question arose as to if 25 was given, could they then come back and do anything with that? Based on Hugh's representation during that meeting, there's really no other plans on this property. Chairman Giroux pointed out an area along the right side of one of the existing structures that could potentially have a little extra added to it. I think we worked out that the extra percentage was something to the effect of like 3,000, 4,000 square feet.
Correct.
And based on Hugh's representation, that's a manufactured building. It wouldn't, mesh well with an addition there too. So Hugh's really.
And my comment, to be quite frank with you, if you agreed with the 22.5, well, in the future, if someone wants to come back for another 2.5, make them go through the process again. I mean, that's what the PDD's for.
Right.
So,
We respect zoning's input.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, of
so-
course. And fire marshal's good with all that, 22.5?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yep, his only comment was related
Was
to
the
that
front.
turnaround,
Yeah,
and this
correct.
doesn't
That
change
makes sense.
anything.
I understood. Yeah,
Yeah.
it made sense.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? I think it's,
So, I have a question. So building C, does it go further back than?
No, it's
No,
done.
that's done.
That's
Okay,
done.
I just
What you
wanted to make
see
sure.
right now is completed the site.
Okay,
Motion for a positive referral back.
Okay.
That's it.
The only other structure you don't see is the structure closest to the road, and only the foundation has been poured in that
Okay.
darker orange section. But that'll be coming up shortly.
all right.
Motion for a positive referral to zoning?
Yes,
for
I would be,
22.
that would be great.
I'll second that. I see no problem with this. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Thank you once again for your help.
We gotta jump back here, so, 8-24 Board of Selectmen referral Memorial Bench, Keens Historical Tree Restoration Committee. So what are we doing on that now?
This is a bench for our tree warden and arborist, Pat Kearns. The Historic Tree Restoration Committee would like to honor Pat with a bench commemorating his years of service for the town, its streetscape, its trees across the board. They're looking to install it facing the holiday tree, and they are hoping, if this commission was amenable to that bench, that a small ceremony would occur prior to the tree lighting ceremony in December.
Sounds good.
Standard procedure across the board, concrete pad, reinforced concrete, standard design and spec of the bench itself. So Public Works will be doing the work to install the bench and the concrete, and the fees for the bench and concrete will be coming from the Historic Tree Restoration Committee.
Great.
So,
Pat is my friend and neighbor. Do I have to recuse myself?
No. I don't think for this. This is a good cause.
Yeah.
Motion for a positive referral.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
Real quick,
bench is gonna face
The tree.
Tree, so the,
back of the
Back of
bench will
this.
be towards the sidewalk and then towards the street.
Yeah.
Just in order of operation.
There's
What,
there's
you don't
already
like
a
that?
bench pretty close there on that faces the road.
okay.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
quite a few of them over there,
Yeah.
so this will be the one outlier, and I guess when you consider its purpose, it
Yeah, I think it looks
does
nice.
align.
Yeah,
As long as the tree's there, it makes sense.
right.
That's fair, that's fair. Yeah.
So, we have positive referral on table and a second. Any other discussion? Sorry, Alex, I
No.
cut you off there, okay?
That's
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. All right. Continue discussion, First Light Solar Project, 2225 River Road. Representative to meet with the commission. Here we are.
Sure.
Thank you.
Full team, look at this, huh?
Yeah, just want to start the conversation by saying thank you guys for taking
Yes.
the time and being willing to meet and speak with us regarding this. There's been a lot of questions, and we greatly appreciate you being able to come and answer those for us.
We very much appreciate the chance to be here. We want to talk about some exciting, things going on adjacent to our Shephog Dam.
Everyone tell your name into the.
Yeah, absolutely.
To the microphone on the record, and then.
I'm Andy Bridges, I'm Director of Community Relations with First Light, located on River Road out in Southbury. Personally, I live in Suffield, Connecticut. Joining me tonight are Sandra Brown, our Director of Project Development at First Light, Brian Wood, our Senior Land Management Specialist, and Tori Hanna, our VP of Business Development with our development partner here at DHD. So what I'd like to do, I handed out quite a short slide deck. I just walked through it quickly, and then we really want to make ourselves available to answer any questions the commission might have. We'll talk about two projects. They do not require town approval, but we want to make sure that the town is comfortable that the proper due diligence has been done. Just by way of introduction, for those that aren't fully familiar with First Light, we're a power generation company. Our mission and vision is to accelerate the decarbonization of the grid, and we do that by owning and operating carbon-free generating facilities like hydropower, battery storage, solar, and we've got a 2 gigawatt pipeline of wind, on and offshore wind, other solar, battery storage, and other types of facilities, in the works. So we're excited and committed to our vision. Moving forward, just as a broad overview of both projects, they are both located adjacent to our Shephog Dam out on River Road. Together, they total 2.8 megawatts and would cover about 281,000 square feet. Annual production, about 3.3 million kilowatt hours. That would be the equivalent of powering about 423 Connecticut homes. So significant contribution to the green energy power supply in this part of the state. Avoiding carbon, of course. We will be using, and I'll talk about it in more detail, we'll be using the power both to offset existing load at the Shephog Dam, the station that does consume power as well as generate it, and also to sell power out onto the grid, onto the wholesale market. We'll be using American-made materials, top-tier technology, and the project will provide long-term tax revenues to the town of Southbury. Let me start with the smaller project, which I think was the primary focus of the discussion in December, that was continued in December. The smaller project is 250 kilowatts. It's about a tenth the size of the larger project. We have received non-project use approval for this from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Both these projects are within the federal boundary, project boundary associated with the dam. But we consulted with a variety of agencies through the plan. U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Connecticut Deep, and Connecticut State Historic Preservation Office. And I'd just like to re-emphasize the fact that we really value the Shephog Dam for the Eagle Observatory. We're very sensitive to the history of that and are being very careful to do all the diligence we can to make sure that that population isn't affected by the development of these two projects. So in our consultation with these agencies, we've agreed to several measures through development, and they're listed there on slide 5. We'll be limiting any tree removal that's required. None should be required for the smaller project, to between November and April. During the eagle nesting season, between January and September, there'd be no tree clearing within 330 feet of, no construction activities within 660 feet of any known bald eagle nests. We've been working closely with Connecticut Deep. There are no known bald eagle nests within that radius. So the eagles go there to fish, but there are no existing nests really close to the dam. We'll be continuing the enhancement of several acres of land adjacent to that facility, the smaller facility with pollinator meadows, and transitioning what was previously routinely mowed grass to native flowering species and only annually cleared meadow, I would say. And we will be monitoring and collecting data on any interactions between the birds, including the eagles, and the array. I will say we own a similar, well, slightly larger array in Northfield, Massachusetts, very close to the Connecticut River and near some of our facilities up in the Greenfield area, northern part of Massachusetts. And we haven't had any issues with bird strikes, and there are eagles in that area too, with any issues with bird strikes at that array, which we've had for, I think, 14 years. I think it was 2012. So we've surveyed our operations team and, clarified with them. And for 12 years, we haven't had any known issues with this. So for the smaller project, we've also received approval from FERC for our geotechnical and construction plans, and we do anticipate construction starting in the spring. So I'm going to turn the page to slide 6, and there's a photograph there that's looking from the dam at the grassy bank where this smaller project will be sited. So that bank is a structural component of the dam, being the downstream sort of earthen bank. So there'll be, minimal changes, as few as we can make, to that bank. In this case, adjacent to the smaller array is where we'll continue to develop the pollinator meadows and so forth, but between the rows of panels, the few rows of panels, we won't be. At the larger project that I can talk to, we will be developing pollinator gardens integrated within the solar array between the rows of panels. This one, because of its proximity to the dam, face of the dam, we won't be, because we want to preserve the grassy area as much as possible for the safety of the dam. It will not, it looks like it's fairly close to the Eagle Observatory, but it will not be visible. The way the kind of view shed angles work, it will not be visible from the Eagle Observatory or the picnic areas. So it has, and it's what I would say within the fence, within the chain link fence of the generating facility. So it's no impact on the existing recreation opportunities that are there. We've consulted, well, we're proud to work with Connecticut Audubon to staff the Eagle Observatory, and we've talked to the National Audubon Society about this project, and they've signaled their support, both for this project and the precautions we're taking, and for solar generally, because climate change obviously is a huge threat, more of a threat, frankly, to the birds than the installation of renewable energy. So let me pause there regarding the smaller project before I move on to just one more slide on the larger project. Are there any questions for our team on the smaller project?
Yes, anything?
That's all that's before us is a smaller project, right, tonight?
Yes, we wanted to give you an update on both. We're not seeking approval from the town because this is within the federally regulated energy boundary, but we wanted to make ourselves available to answer questions on both, so.
But to that point, the
But
smaller
I wanna
project
make
will be
sure
occurring
that that's what
first.
we're talking about tonight.
Yes.
We're not sending any referrals or support or not support. This is just for the smaller project tonight. So we can confine our questions to that. Is that correct?
We would welcome questions for both projects. Jordan,
Just to-
procedurally, I'll defer to you.
First project in the springtime is it's a smaller one.
Yes. And when you say springtime, when does that start?
Do you have a, I don't know if we have a date.
Just because the fledglings don't till the end of May.
Just state your name.
So we don't have any eagle nests that are in proximity to either proposed project site.
Who determined that?
Connecticut DEP, Ryan Ness, the head of,
DEP determined that there are no nests near the dam. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
absolutely.
Within the radius that they had just represented,
330 feet?
and
We do have
600.
an eagle's nest.
660.
I can't tell you in a public
That's-
setting, it's at another dam that we have. We work with DEP, we monitor and we tag the eagles, and we have volunteers who send people up to put the bands on them, but there's none at the Chippewa facility.
When was that determined?
Weeks ago, literally, we've had conversations with DEP.
This year, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much run the Eagle View, I can tell you there's no bald eagles at the Chippewa Dam. And I gotta put myself on the record too.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name's Brian Wood. You know, I manage the Eagle View for some years now, and all the volunteers down there. And there's no eagle nests at the Chippewa facility. They're upriver. I can't tell you where they are. I know where they are. But in a public setting, we try not to tell folks where we know all the nests are, because we end up with the challenges we have at other facilities, which is gates and fences and police trying to keep people from disturbing the eagles and forcing them out while they're fledging.
Yeah.
Right.
When you say no, within 330 feet is what you're saying?
600.
In excess of 600, and
Yeah.
we actually looked out to 1,000, so there's nothing within 1,000.
Commend you for
facility.
what you've done there. You know, they were endangered when you started that project, and now they're under the watch list, I think.
Yeah, they're off the, endangered species list. It's the first real success of the EPA and all the wildlife regulations that we have.
Yes.
And we're really proud. We've got volunteers who I've worked with for the last, 10 some odd years who've been volunteering at the Eagle View for 30+ years. The lady who's the director of DEP Wildlife now, Jenny Dixon, her first job at DEP as a staffer was in the trailer counting eagles at Chippewa. So, we've been around almost as long as DEP's been around. Really great facility. That's why we work so hard to make sure, from an environmental standpoint, from a location standpoint, we're getting into the development at First Light with this great team, and we wanted to make sure we made ourselves available to chat with you guys and let you know that we're good stewards of the land, we're protecting the resources, and we spent a year making sure this fits the site and the environment and natural resources. And we're hoping, to invite you guys out after we're done post-construction and do some ribbon cutting and have it really be something the town can show off. Here's some new solar in the community.
When you said Audubon supports this, they support it with a condition, that it avoids, minimizes, or mitigates impacts on birds and their habitat, because also the migratory birds are, you can see them every day, diving there. Eagles don't dive, they swoop. So in other installations, one of the things that mitigates that is not to have lighting so that it attracts all the bugs. And it makes it more dense population, and it does attract them where there is damage. That's one way to mitigate it. Would you have any objection to doing that?
I know we can't alter the lighting at the facility because it's all there for dam safety purposes.
No, but no additional,
I don't think we're gonna
I
add
would
any
not
lighting.
expect any additional lighting would be
No.
required as part of the solar installations, either solar installation.
Do you mind stating your name for the record?
My name is Sandra Brown. I am the Director for Project Development with First Light.
have you looked at that, and I don't know how to pronounce it correctly,
Agrivoltaic.
Voltaic.
Yes.
Yeah, so that, there's the farm right there. And they
Correct.
could benefit, the town could benefit,
Yes. So
First Lake could benefit if you install that instead of,
So we are looking for the smaller facility, we are really looking at a bespoke product. For the smaller facility that is on the dam embankment, we are looking at a bespoke product that can really mimic the existing slope of the land so that we're doing minimal disruption, as mentioned earlier, to the dam slope. We find that very important in terms of maintaining the integrity of that surface, which is a part of the dam structure. We did receive FERC approval, actually earlier today, with regards to our proposed design that kind of mitigates any disruption. With regards to the larger facility, we're currently considering some alternatives. We'll probably work through a specific design in the near, in the coming weeks with respects to that. The challenge with agrivoltaics in the state of Connecticut is that there is not presently a specific incentive that would enable us to
a specific what? I can't hear.
incentive that would enable us to carry the additional cost for that technology. So they're really not economic, unfortunately, here in the state of Connecticut. There are other states, New York and Massachusetts, that do have programs that are specifically targeted at agrivoltaics, and we are definitely looking at deploying agrivoltaics where it's feasible. But for right now, unfortunately, in Connecticut, that isn't something that we can pursue.
There is this GLHD who will fund the installation, and the equipment, all of the materials are much less, so maybe you want to look, I'll give you this.
Yeah,
Look into it.
I'd be happy to take a look at that. I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah, the challenge we have is, all of our lands are open to the public free of charge.
Yes,
So they're within our recreational open spaces. The property that we're looking at doing the larger field, which we brought, simple maps for you guys, we haven't finalized final location. We did make the decision, we're not gonna put it where the Eagle View is. We're gonna move it up into the woods, so it's gonna be separate. There'll be some public access, and signage associated with, hey, here's a new solar field in the community. But ultimately, we decided that, it'd be better having a bee pollinator habitat and somewhat under the recommendation of U.S. Fish and Wildlife, because the majority of the key species in Connecticut that are threatened or endangered are threatened and endangered because of the loss of early successional meadows. So by putting in an early successional meadow, you're providing habitat to all those migratory birds that come through, and at the same time, decarbonizing the grid along with our mission. So we're trying to basically get two benefits out of the same footprint. And if we can support the wildlife species and the migratory birds and everything at the same time, there will be an impact with some clearing. That's the nature of life. But ultimately, there's gonna be a new ecosystem that's a beneficial, known to be needed ecosystem that's tied into the energy generation. So that's our game plan at this point.
you said you weren't going to remove significant trees, but then you say it's like clear cut, which is it?
This was for the second larger project.
for the big
Larger
project.
field
Oh, so
requires
okay.
tree removal.
We haven't seen any of that yet.
Yeah, and ultimately, we won't, we'll give you guys some information, but we go to the Connecticut Siting Council, which will be happening in the coming days, and we'll work through the Siting Council. We probably will come back to the town or, the boards and other folks and just say, hey,
Please.
generally, are you guys in support of this energy project? Try to garner your support before we go up to the Siting Council. It's always good to have the community's general understanding and support, and that's part of the reason we're here tonight. Just to give you guys as much information as we have, get it out, let you understand the project, and then as, say, a year or two from now, we have a process of working with you guys. If we decided, hey, the market's changed and there's a beneficial benefit to putting in a battery that pairs with our solar, well, then we come back in and do another presentation to you guys. Say, hey, guess what? The solar's in, there's a battery that works. you know, who knows? We don't know what the energy market's gonna do or the economics, but we think setting the tide with you guys and letting you be able to ask us questions before we go to the siting council makes sense, so that was the concept.
The power that's generated goes to the grid, it doesn't come locally, right? So it goes to,
It cannot generate locally, it's sold via contract
Yeah,
into
so,
the grid.
which
So-
ours goes to Boston and Providence from the power plant. It doesn't come here, yeah.
yeah, so it does, you know, it does go to the local grid, and we are working to identify off-takers that would, you know, have a bilateral power purchase agreement for the project. You know, it certainly could go to a local entity. The entities that are eligible for taking on that power typically are ISO New England wholesale market participants. That isn't exclusive of, you know, entities that are based out of, you know, Providence or Boston, but it does include quite a number of entities here that are local to Connecticut. You know, a lot of our existing offtake is with municipal entities, both in Massachusetts as well as Connecticut.
When are you going to the siting council?
For the larger project,
No, for this.
For the smaller project, no. Any project that's under 1 megawatt does not require siting council approval. And because of the location within the FERC jurisdictional boundary, you know, it's more of a consultation process.
We consult with, as Andy mentioned earlier, Connecticut DEP, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and the State Historic Preservation Officer. That's because as a licensee, we're equal federal powers with them. Under the Endangered Species Act, National Historic Preservation Act, you know, we pair up with them, so we make sure that we're not causing any impact on those federal regulations. And then for the larger project, we're going up to the siting council as advisory, because we want to make sure that they know we're building a big project. If siting council supports it, then we go into the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So that's kind of our permitting process.
They just updated the federal, April 12th. Take a look.
What's that?
They just updated their requirements for permits.
Siting
April
council?
12th. No, federal.
I don't know.
There's a copy.
Federal Energy Regulatory Committee?
Yeah. Anyway, may not impact this, but.
No, we go through a different group. It's called Division of Hydro Administration Compliance. I think the group that
Yes,
you're
yes,
talking
yes.
about, just a different group.
Are there, yep, another question?
So my understanding is the small project basically benefits the dam. The larger project will be commercial.
Correct.
Sold to the- Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I have a question. Was this statement from the Autobahn specifically about this project or about solar projects or projects like this in general?
Really both, right?
Yeah, I
The-
think it was general to most solar projects, but it was specific to this solar project that they
It was a letter from them regarding
this
this
project.
project.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what level of involvement or feedback has Bent of the River given on this?
I'm
Bent of-
sorry?
What level of involvement or feedback has Bent of the River
Oh.
provided on this project? Bent of the River Autobahn in Southbury.
Bend of the River is National Audubon, so they're represented by the people who wrote us the letter.
Okay.
Bend of the River is a local branch of that. We work with Connecticut Audubon that operates the Eagle View. So Connecticut founded the Audubon, then they created National.
Right.
So National's run by, you know, run Bend of the River. So we sought comment from National, and then we also had conversations with Connecticut, who runs the Eagle View, and that everyone's generally in support of, you know, installing solar in this fashion with integrated bee pollinator for migratory support, you know, throughout the region. We
'Cause
didn't specifically go to Bend of the River and talk to the staff there, but we had conversations with
Because Bent of the
National.
River was here and Southbury Land Trust was here expressing their concern about the project. So
Right.
I'm just curious if they were involved or
I can
brought
speak
to the
that.
table at any point. Mhm.
So we have letters from both Bent of the River Audubon.
Oh, you do?
As well as the Southbury Land Trust in
Okay.
support of this. That original meeting in the small room that we were all cramped in
Right,
that
right.
evening, they had not had the opportunity at that meeting to review the plans.
Okay.
So following that meeting, they had the opportunity to review the plans and subsequently both submitted letters of
In
approval
support.
following those in support.
Okay.
Bent of the River and Southbury Land Trust, I will say, had not responded in kind to the larger solar project. They've only seen plans regarding the small solar project, and similarly, there's no approvals, referrals, or anything that this commission will be giving for these projects. However, The small Chapag Dam solar project, that seems to be the next project to come. The larger dam, there's obviously still some design aspects that they'll have to suss out and will subsequently bring to our attention. We can get comments by Bent to the River and Southbury Land Trust similarly to the kind of the procedure that we've laid out here.
Okay.
And that was my goal, kind of in interacting with this commission, the town, this entity here today, is to generate a relationship where we can have easy communication back and forth, bring in any entity, including Connecticut Autobahn, who may have a desire to comment on these, and then bring them to the commission, assess any questions that we might have, and get them answered from this.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, as part of realizing that stakeholders arose in the community, as part of working on the larger permit, we'll be reaching out to those same entities in advance of going to the siting council. It's one of those things, until you start coming up with a plan and getting it on a map, then you figure it out. You know, we wanted to make sure we got it to you guys and communicated what our game plan is, and why it's weird that we're not coming to you guys for, you know, zoning and wetlands, and building, and explain the process, and make sure, you know, when we start putting shovels in the ground, you all know this is happening in the community, this is what, you know, what's occurring.
Any other questions from the?
Anybody else?
When those letters you talked about, Robin,
Mhm.
they do say they support it as long as it avoids, minimizes, or mitigates. So it's not a tacit approval.
And I can send out copies of those letters again, just so everyone
have
has them
Yeah, I
top
think
of mind.
think I
Okay.
wrote
We
that
have
to
to,
you.
yeah.
Okay, sounds good, everybody?
We appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Let the big one start, you'll send us some information as you go. Just
We will.
Once we get ready to go into site.
keep everybody
we'll
up
get
to
you guys
speed.
something.
That'd be awesome, thank you.
Thank you for your time today,
Thank you.
guys. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Discussion, bridge reconstruction, Poverty Road over the Pompano River. Nancy, I know you sent an email about this. Did Jory remember that, right?
Yeah, so we addressed a lot of those questions. Essentially, this is going before the public for comment. The questions still are mainly surrounding whether or not that Poverty Road aspect of, as it goes towards Heritage Road, is dead-ended or not. If it is, what type of plantings would this commission want? How would this commission like it to be modified, improved, what have you? Or if this commission feels, based on the information provided to you in the design specs for the Poverty Road Bridge, if the dead ending of that road is not conducive to the overall plan, we can provide comments to the Department of Public Works prior to their public review, and they'll consider those comments.
Did they respond to storing the materials and the machinery at the park there, or the school there, or what, how was that gonna?
So I was in the process of getting Blake kind of a synopsis of those, and unfortunately, I had not had the opportunity to
Okay.
finalize that before
So
getting
that'll
it
be
to
on the
him.
next agenda?
Correct. We'll get those answers. Similarly, there were some questions around the parks. I have a call to Parks and Rec, and I'll hopefully get in touch with them this week.
Good, yeah, okay.
As you're coming over that hill, and I'm sure we'll discuss this when they meet on the 24th, I think it is.
Correct, yep.
When you're coming over that hill, you can't even see the stop sign. So if you put a cul-de-sac there, somebody's gonna go flying through the cul-de-sac because they're not gonna, you're gonna have to change the grade of the hill that's coming down.
As you're coming off Heritage
As you're
Road.
coming down, yeah.
Understood.
Because you get there, you gotta have a sign at the top of the hill telling people there's a stop sign. And the sign is there because people were going through it because they didn't know it was a stop sign.
Well, likely, they'd end up having to put a dead-end sign right at the entrance of that roadway, just to notify
Would help.
passing travelers that that's not a roadway that they can, you know,
Exit. Right?
that would be a requirement, I would imagine.
I would think so.
Well, I'll make sure we bring it up.
Sounds good.
I'll make sure to get that answer.
All right. Let's see, members' reports, Affordable Housing Subcommittee. Alex, how are we doing?
Great, we met on, the 2nd of April. And really, we were following up on the Board of Selectmen meeting, where they discussed the recommendation for a language change to the Public Act. And really, there seemed to be some misunderstanding or misstatements as to what affordable housing is versus low-income housing.
Seems to be a lot of that.
And so we discussed ways of clarifying that, or having that clarified for the Board of Selectmen, that's really, you know, our hope and our recommendation had been that the Pierce Hollow, the rewording of that Public Act could be so that Pierce Hollow might be available for an affordable housing, a development which would include affordable housing.
I think we looked for multi-generational was the term, I think,
The
right?
recommendation was a term for multi-generational, which I just
Right, isn't
wanted
that
to
which we talked about for
clarify. The
your
Affordable
state?
Housing Committee was,
It was
subcommittee
talked
was
about,
not.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, our interest was affordable housing.
Affordable housing.
of course, yeah.
And the affordable housing that's already been built is multi-generational. So it's not something that's brand new. I just don't understand the confusion, because
I didn't quite, I listened to the Board of Selectmen meeting twice, I just didn't quite understand what, it
I
went in the wrong direction, for sure.
I made a presentation to them in 2019 on affordable housing, and I gave it to the members of the affordable housing, subcommittee. And I explained to them at that time what the difference was between affordable housing and Section 8 housing. And they seemed to understand it at that time. But watching that film, watching that video, it didn't seem like they understood it.
I think the other thing that was at least not conveyed as understood in that meeting was that the town would retain control of the development of that land. So they could stagger the development of affordable housing to accommodate the needs of the town, or the interests of the town and the resources of the town. They could do a number of things to retain who the developer is, what the project would look like. All of those things could be within, the town's purview. And that was also not at all.
But that's that's if the town owns it.
The
That's-
town owns
or
it.
The town owns
The
it.
town owns it, and according to
We don't
the
do
structure of the
anything
public, of the Public Act, we would still own it.
We'd have to, yeah.
And then, have a nonprofit that could develop it. And we would, the town would then choose who that nonprofit developer would be.
And the town would control the plans. It's not like somebody's gonna come in and just throw up shacks. The town will control the plans.
Which is a concern.
They pick out the developer. The developer has to come before them and show them what they're gonna develop.
There's a misrepresentation
And I
that
think
this
that's-
would benefit Southbury residents.
That's a big
There is
aspect.
no provision for that anywhere.
And that was very clear,
It's not clear in any of the newspapers, any of the reporting. Southbury residents have no priority.
well, that certainly was a concern for the Board of Selectmen as well, and their representations were that people would be coming from all over.
I mean,
That's
Which
what
I
affordable housing
also
is.
don't know
Yeah.
if that's,
That's true.
well, but I don't know how feasible that is if we're talking about affordable housing. With people with limited resources, they're not going to,
drive from New York to here.
there was a representation that
Yes.
somebody would
Somebody
be
from New York
working.
is gonna come.
But if people work in Southbury and can't afford to live here,
That's right.
this is a great option for them, right?
And-
If they get on the list,
That's the challenge,
there's no
'cause
priority
There's, yeah.
But-
for
and that's-
Southbury residents.
But
No,
it-
I'm
it-
saying then they wouldn't be residents. Maybe they work in Southbury, but they want to live here and they can't afford it. This would be a good option for them.
And they would, right, be.
To
and they
enhance
would be
Southbury, bring people
residents when they
closer.
move here.
Right.
There's a few more
It
things.
would welcome new
There's a few more things
residents.
behind it.
If we're-
Jordan can get an overview of it.
If we're lucky enough to get Southbury residents in such a development, we would be fortunate, frankly. It
Right.
would be serving a need for the town. If you listen to the minutes of those movies, you'd be hard-pressed to not feel the impassioned plea from the public. The reality of the situation is if affordable housing development went in, it's first come, first serve. It could go to out-of-state, in-state, in-town, out-of-town, police officers, and then similarly, this wouldn't be a tax-generating asset for the town, either through the development, because it would be developed by a nonprofit,
Right.
the upkeep of the roads, police, hospital, or paramedic, schools similarly, and then there would be no tax generation from the income of any property taxes from the individuals as tenants. That was a huge, I'd say, sticking point during the Board of Selectmen meeting. I think we can get past affordable housing, low-income housing. I think that's just an educational aspect. I love the idea that the subcommittee's looking at doing that, because across the board, if we can just say, this is what affordable housing is, this is what low-income housing is, and these are the misnomers that people tend to fall into. It just ends up being a tough situation. I'm reaching out to Region 15 schools to try and generate as much data as we can, just to have clear and concise answers as to whether or not, are they gonna be adversely affected if a major development went in and we had 140 units?
Well, and again, I don't think anything says that it has to be 140 units or maybe.
That number got thrown around. I know, yeah.
But I mean, I think that's the other, there's a panic that this is going to be a huge project.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't necessarily have to be.
You're
It can
totally
be
right.
phased in.
But there's
And-
still a possibility.
No,
Right, and you would think if you're gonna
No,
start a
because
project
the
like that,
town would be in
controls
charge of
it.
that.
The town
Yes, I
selects the
understand that.
developer, and if the town doesn't want a developer that's gonna put in 140 units, it isn't gonna happen.
And similarly, there is quite a bit of remedial cleanup on that site.
A lot.
So from a developer's side, if they're not generating enough of the units to meet the income requirements that they would need to facilitate covering that environmental remediation, it's a need in town, and it's obviously a need in town. I think we're all in agreement along that side. I don't want to speak for anyone. However, just based on my experience in that Board of Selectmen meeting, there's a lot of information I think we still have to generate before at least the Board of Selectmen, it appears, is comfortable kind of pulling the trigger on that. That's kind of the sentiment that I gathered sitting in that meeting. I don't know if anyone feels differently, but
I totally agree with it. I didn't sit there, I listened to it, so I came away with the same feeling.
it's a tough question, and everyone's trying to answer it right now, and
Well, and again, our first step was to, I mean, nothing can happen unless there's a legislative change, and that request needed to go in sooner rather than later.
Talking 25 and 26.
So it's
but-
not a, you know, it's certainly not a possibility until that language is changed.
correct.
So. Bob, did you have anything?
Is,
You've said it all.
Nicely done, by the way.
is the major sticking point the size of the lot?
I think it's all surrounded
I-
around
I
the
I think there's multiple
Plus.
issues.
Yeah,
Cost.
taxes. Have gotta be the number one thing.
but doesn't the developer pay taxes on the owner of the property?
Not if it's a
a
nonprofit
nonprofit.
status, no.
If it's nonprofit, that's right.
So the town's concerned about, one, the roads, right, the upkeep and everything, and who takes care of all that at the town, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayers' expense, right? Our cost.
Emergency services. also.
Emergency services, right? And-
Education's the big one.
Right, and the school enrollment was going down for a number of years, so I don't,
It is trending downwards.
it is trending downwards, so I wouldn't see that as being a huge ordeal unless all 140 houses all had 2 or 3 kids.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to drill down
If that's
on,
not the case, then it wouldn't be,
But if
so we
they,
have that concrete
It would no
info.
longer
Yeah.
be going down.
staff level.
Right, it won't be going down. so that's why
Yeah.
Jordan and I talked about, it. We're like, let's look into that
Yeah,
just to
they
see
didn't
if
let any
that's a-
teachers go just because the students went down. So the education budget did shift more towards Middlebury versus us this time around.
Right.
But there's nothing to say that wouldn't repeat. And you're right, everyone thinks worst-case scenario, you get 140 units, 2.5 kids a unit. We're building a school all of a sudden. You know, that's where they
It
go.
could be done in phases. It could be done a 30-unit
Right.
opener.
Yeah.
And you could sit on a 30-unit for a number of years to see how it works out before it grew anymore.
Because you have control over that site.
That's right.
But there are additional questions that need to be answered. And I think, as Alex pointed out, the goal was not to look for complete approval and start seeking out nonprofits. The goal was, this is a non-starter if we don't get the language changed. So we were hoping to get the language changed and then take it from there, a step further. But
From my knowledge, I understand that the original act happened when the leadership of Southbury had land available and a nonprofit essentially targeted. And then the act came, with all these players, can we do this? So would this be an easier discussion if the nonprofit, whomever it may be, was already identified and there were some general ideas of a plan? So maybe the 140 units with 19 kids per unit wasn't a reality? You know, would that be the more appropriate way to do it, rather than rewrite or ask for the rewriting of an act and then shopping for nonprofits?
If I can just address one of the facets of that question, I think the other piece was that the time is right to, the interest and funding for senior housing has sundowned, right? So that's no longer a project, and that is what holds, that's the statutory language at this point. So the land is reserved for that, or the state could sell it themselves. Am I correct?
Or we become a housing authority. We could do any
Right, we could
housing.
become a
but-
housing
Yep,
authority, but it's still,
3 options.
right. So because there's such a interest in supporting affordable housing from the state, and we thought that a legislative change to provide for that option, that the time is right for that. So I think that was one of the major reasons why we were pursuing it, was because the land isn't going to be used for anything right now. And so if, as an option, to make, as the Affordable Housing Subcommittee making recommendations, this was a recommendation that could easily be made. And to see what the state interest is in supporting affordable housing.
And we can wish for all sorts of things, but right now, the ultimate decision comes down to the state of Connecticut.
Yes.
Now, they're not obligated to change the language. They could change the language to something that we're not in favor of. And this was kind of, I thought, maybe our initial steps to at least get feelers out there to see if this is doable at all, or are we wasting our time? And if they were gonna come back with, no, we're not interested in changing the language, then we can very clearly move on to something else.
Right.
To answer your question a bit, Jason, the systematic nature with which every department and the applicant, the Board of Selectmen, the Planning Department, the commissions, worked together so aggressively when that act got put forth and the approvals started to roll in. I've never seen something work in lockstep so well. It was referrals, approvals, meetings, lawyers, traffic studies. It was all there, ready to go at a moment's notice, and it was essentially approved and ready to go in no time. So the systematic nature really, I think, evolved as a result of a developer being, or a nonprofit being ready to push for something that was an obvious need in the town realizing the obvious need, and the town having the means to work with that developer to do it. It was across the board. I think everyone was in agreement, and I've only had the opportunity to review that file, but in doing so, it was unlike any other property file I'd reviewed of that kind. Long way of answering your question. If a developer was putting forth an application, I think the palatability and I'd say trepidation would be reduced.
In addition, for the Affordable Housing Subcommittee, we're also now going on to another of our charges, which is to identify properties within the town that could be recommended for development or promotion for affordable housing programs.
The list was done last summer. I think it's someplace. Do you have it? You have it? Okay.
The members have it.
The members have it. Good, okay, good.
Our next meeting is May 7th.
Excellent. Well done, thank you. Okay. All right. Let's see. Correspondence, email correspondence, John Kavanaugh regarding open space. Everyone saw that email from Deb? Yep. That was in the paper? Thoughts on it? Anybody? I mean, are we having on the schedule to talk about it, or would?
It's a correspondence, so if, I mean, you've all read it, if there's any
Anyone have any
discussion that you wish
discussion
to
on it?
have regarding it, the table is open.
Yeah.
But it was really a concern as a result of a letter that was posted in the Voices. From the land use department's perspective, it kind of sent everyone into a fever pitch, because there was a lot of information that seemed to be inaccurate in that letter. Speaking with Joe Ruggiero of the Southbury Land Trust, they're drilling down on figuring out where the number 55% came from and exactly what it's referencing.
Crazy.
Concerned about whether or not it's being, deceitful or just inaccurate or whatever the case is, just drilling down on the facts of the matter. And I think this email correspondence came as a result of that.
Again, the definition of open space is always,
Been there.
We're back to that again.
Back to that again, golf courses.
I was on some open space this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
cemeteries. Yeah.
All right. Let's see, meeting minutes, March 19th, 2024. Absent was myself and Robin Greenspan, so we can vote.
Abstain.
Anybody have any changes or thoughts or anything, additions to it?
The one that, was it on the bridge, where is that?
Towards the end.
Towards the end, okay. On adjournment. Yeah, all of our questions didn't get in there.
I'll be listening, I am in the process of listening to the meeting minutes, and I'm gonna be forwarding all the questions to Public Works directly. If that suffices for the purpose of having the questions in there,
Could
then
we
great.
amend it to include those questions?
Of course, you
too,
can
so we
amend
have-
the minutes to include the questions, absolutely.
Okay, so I would approve, subject to amending C memo to include the concerns and questions of the commission on March 19th.
Okay. You second it? Anyone else have anything else to add to that? Okay, all in favor of approving that?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Myself and Robin, since we weren't here. All approved. Thank you. All right, any other business properly brought before the commission? Anything, anybody? Nothing, we have nothing, so we can announce, right, like, nothing?
No.
No. Okay, sounds good. All right,
To adjourn.
I'll second the motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.